And welcome everybody to the B&H virtual event space. Today we have with us Jennifer Khordi, who's going to be talking about shooting landscapes and the Milky Way out west. So with that, Jennifer, I'm going to turn it over to you.
Hi, I just wanted to thank you guys for inviting me to talk again. It's always an honor and a pleasure. Today I'm going to be talking about my adventures out west, shooting landscapes, storms, and Milky Way. Every year I take at least a couple of trips out west. Actually, pre-COVID, I haven't traveled this year, but I just want to show you a bunch of my images and how I shot them and what my process is. Okay, so just to go over my gear, I'm a Nikon shooter. I typically shoot landscapes with my D850 and my Nikon D850 and Nikon Z7. I have two Nikon D810As that I use for Milky Way. They're fantastic. They're actually modified cameras for Astro. I use a PhotoPro Global Elite Photographer tripod, an 84C. It's very sturdy. My lens typically for my landscapes and for my Milky Way is my 14 to 24 2.8 lens. And when I shoot landscapes, I use my S5 150 millimeter filter system that fits over that lens. And then for the Milky Way, I typically bring along a headlamp, a fast wide lens, and a wired trigger, a wired remote. Okay, so typically when I shoot landscapes, I try to focus stack. So basically what I do is I get close to an image and I take a whole bunch of images from near to far, and then I blend them together in Photoshop. Focus stacking at f8, especially on the lens that I use, the 14 to 24, allows me to have maximum sharpness near and far for my image. Now, some people might say, well, why don't you just stop down? Why don't you just shoot at a tighter aperture to get a greater depth of field? I find that with my 14 to 24, my greatest sharpness is at f8. That's why I typically like to focus stack. And I'm going to show you several examples of focus stacks when I show you this presentation. So basically, if you go all the way to f22 instead of f8, you're going to get diffraction. So you basically want to avoid that when you're shooting landscapes. So focus stacking again allows you to shoot the entire image at f8, allowing for maximum focus and sharpness throughout the image. And also what you can do is you can shoot wide, an image wide close up, and then you can shoot, actually if you have a 14 to 24, you can go to 24 for say the faraway mountain and shoot your flower at say at 14, and then blend it all together in Photoshop. Okay, so don't pay attention to the picture here because this is actually shot in Norway, but I just wanted to show you an example of how I shoot a focus stacked image. So basically what I do is I actually shoot very close to my subject when I'm focus stacking, and I turn on my autofocus and I actually move my joystick up, my little focus box here, and I focus really close, and then I keep moving my focus point throughout from near all the way to far. And then my last one's the mountain, and then I'm done. So what I do is I take the focus stack and I open them as layers in Photoshop and actually digitally blend the whole thing together. And also what helps is to have a tripod like the PhotoPro tripod that I use. I use a tripod that goes very low to the ground so that I can get close enough to my subject. And also you can actually make images make things in the sand, for example, patterns in the sand look a lot bigger than they actually are by focus stacking. Excuse me. Okay, so I'll talk about Milky Way in a little bit. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna show you different places that I go out west to shoot my landscapes in Milky Way. And my absolute favorite is Death Valley National Park. I have an upcoming workshop in December with Kawa Lin, and I'm going to be telling you more about that workshop later, but it'll be my first official workshop out there. Okay, so I'm gonna talk about my landscape images in Death Valley now. Okay, so this is actually my my favorite example of a focus stack. that I took at the Racetrack Playa in Death Valley, California. Um, what I did was actually when I arrived here, it was actually it was about to storm, if you can believe that. It almost never rains on the Racetrack Playa. And actually what happens is that here, the rain actually makes the rocks move very slowly. And I just couldn't believe it though. When I got there, I had a stormy sky, which I was not anticipating at all. So after driving on that crazy road for a couple of hours, I ran out of the car and set up my camera and made sure that I was able to focus here, right at this mud crack here at 14 millimeter. And I brought the focus point all the way up. And I did about 6 different focus points here. And then I took another exposure of the sky, and then I blended it together in Photoshop. But this allowed me to have maximum focus in the front and in the back. Another example of a stormy sky at the Racetrack Playa. And again, you almost never see this. I mean, I typically joke that storms follow me everywhere I go when I go out west. And this was another example of being chased by storms, even in the middle of the racetrack. This is a crazy scene at the Salt Flats. The last time I was there, I was there last year, and it was totally insane. We got this absolutely crazy sunrise creating this glow, and then this plane, I guess, was descending and leaving at this big chemtrail, and it was just crazy. But again, I was able to get really low to the ground to get this pattern to take up the front of my camera. This is another stack that I did. There's a place in Death Valley where you can photograph these mud cracks. And when I'm shooting in Death Valley, I'm always looking for different patterns to shoot in the ground. And you don't have to go to Death Valley to do this. I mean, you can go to the beach, for example, and find them. You can even go in the city and find something in the ground to shoot. I always find that when you find really cool geometric patterns in the ground, you can actually make a very interesting image by focus stacking that. And I think this is about 8 different images that I took. And again, I focused here and then straight all the way through to the back to this mountain. And I didn't focus blend this. You know, you can actually zoom in, say at 24 and get an even larger mountain. I didn't do that, but it's also possible. Here's some rocks at the Racetrack Playa. So what I did was I was actually shooting sunrise there as well. I was there all night. And if you're shooting Milky Way there, and I'll explain this in a little bit, you can actually take the sunset or sunrise blend and keep these for later and just stack them with the Milky Way. I love Dante's View. This is another place in Death Valley I absolutely love to hike to. It's absolutely spectacular view from the top, and I was able to get a very beautiful sunset from the top there. I used the leaning line of the hiking trail to kind of lead you into the sky, and I'm always looking for patterns when I'm shooting. This is another spectacular sunrise that I had at the Salt Flats, and it was just amazing. It just made the whole Salt Flat glow pink, which I absolutely loved. And also you can see here, you can see this pattern here. And this is actually available to you if you have your lens really close to the ground. Okay, so I'm gonna talk about my Milky Way images now in Death Valley. And first off, before I do that, I'll just give you some tips on shooting the Milky Way. This is a Milky Way stack, meaning that this is about 15 to 20 images for the sky that I blended together. And this is actually a blue hour shot of the rock at f8. And then what I did was I took this blue hour shot of the rock and then I blended it in with the sky. And we were lucky enough to get the moon setting to the right here. If you don't take a blue hour image of what you're shooting the Milky Way to, it's very hard to get a good exposure of a foreground in such a dark place as Death Valley. I know, in light polluted places, You might have some ambient light. You might have some light from street lamps. But when you go to a place such as a national park, which has no light at all, you definitely want to be able to take a blue hour shot of your foreground. Don't move your camera, and then wait for Milky Way to start. The crazy thing was last year when I actually got my blue hour shots of the rocks, rain came in and I had to leave. You can't stand on this play in the rain because you'll damage it. So I left immediately as soon as it started to rain, and then I came back, found the same rock, and got my Milky Way images. Okay, so how do I shoot the Milky Way? So I use photo bills exclusively to plan my Milky Way. It's important to understand the season when you're shooting the Milky Way. The Milky Way season typically runs from late January until October. The Milky Way first appears in the sky during the pre-dawn hours in late January. And every week, the Milky Way rises earlier and earlier until it's setting in the sky right after sunset. On the East Coast is the best time to shoot the Milky Way, especially from New Jersey and New York, is in the wintertime when the Milky Way is in the east, so you can get it over the ocean. As the Milky Way season goes on and on, the Milky Way starts to shift from the east to the west. And of course, you know, the west is perfect. Like if you got to California, for example, you can get the Milky Way over the Pacific Ocean, for example. So basically what I do is I shoot the Milky Way according to the season and according to the best place in order to avoid light pollution. So it's important to understand the correct angle the Milky Way is rising and according to the time of the season. Now, Milky Way season is actually over. The moonlight actually is interfering now, and by the next time the moonlight is not going to interfere, the core will not be visible anymore. So actually the Milky Way season now is over. So I have to wait until next late January to get the shot. So some tips about shooting the Milky Way: you cannot face light pollution when shooting the Milky Way. You have to know where the light pollution is. You cannot shoot the Milky Way in more than 25% moonlight and get a clear shot. So basically moonlight, clouds, and light pollution are your biggest enemies. I was supposed to go to Montauk the other day. We wound up, me and Kawhi were having a workshop, and we had to cancel it because if they were predicting more than 50% cloud cover. So basically your biggest enemies is the weather, light pollution, and moonlight. If you get it, you can get around the light pollution and the moonlight, but it's hard with the weather. The weather's constantly changing. So you really have to have a lot of patience when you're trying to shoot the Milky Way. Okay, so basically I shoot the Milky Way in manual mode, and out west is dark. So I typically, when I'm at west, I may be bumping my ISO up to even 8 to 10,000, if you can believe that. I have a special modified astro camera that's very good at high ISOs, but you want to pay attention to your particular camera, especially if you're shooting with a crop sensor camera, for example, might not be as good at high ISOs as say a full frame. You have to really pay attention to that. Now in the Nikon world, the D850 is not that great because it has such a high megapixel. So like for example, the Z6 is really good for high ISOs, so is the Nikon D850. What I basically do is I stack the Milky Way. So I typically don't shoot over 15 seconds for 14 millimeter and 10 seconds for 24 millimeter to start trailing. So what I do is I take a whole bunch of shots at 15 seconds or 10 seconds successfully. I'm not saying that right. You know what I mean. So what I do is I take all of the images together, and then I create a stack in Starry Landscape Stack, where I stack them together, and then I blend them with my foreground shot, and that's how I get it. So if you're shooting the Milky Way, you want to manually focus on a star using your LCD display by zooming in and getting a manual focus on that star. So again, make sure that you get your blue hour foreground shot and don't move your camera. So I would recommend like earlier in the season when the Milky Way is rising up before sunrise, I recommend getting your blue hour shot after the Milky Way is over and waiting for sunrise. Later in the season when the Milky Way is visible up to sunset, get the sunset shot first and then wait. Typically, I'll get my sunset shot and I'll be standing around even for a couple of hours waiting for it to get dark. Okay, so again, I would definitely try Dark Sky, the Dark Sky app, and it'll tell you where the light pollution is. So here you can see that out west is pretty good, but when you get into the East Coast, you definitely have a problem. Okay, so basically the focus stacking with Milky Way photography is very much similar to how you would focus stack a Milky Way shot. Get your focus stack blue hour shot first, keep that stack, and then stack your Milky Way, 15 or 20 images doing starry landscape stacker or sequator for windows, and then blend it all together as layers in Photoshop, and then you have your completed image. Okay, so this one again is a blend like I showed you. This was a blue hour shot and then I blended it with the sky and I was able to get a pretty sharp image of my rock and very beautifully visible rock that's not shot at night, and then my sky. Here is star trails that I did. What I did was I got a blue hour shot of my rock and then I waited for it to get dark and I took about probably about 400 images of the stars. And then I used star stacks to create a star trail. It was kind of hard to get the complete star trail because I was at 14mm and it was hard to just get a good composition. But you might be wondering why I have different colors in my star trails. I actually underexpose the stars in order to preserve the color. And I do that a lot when I'm shooting. If you can see here, if you go to a very dark sky location, you can get different colors of stars, pinks and greens and yellows and all kinds of stuff. The stars don't have to be white. So if you go to a dark location and your stars are white, chances are you're overexposing the image. Don't be afraid to darken your image. You can always bring it up later. As long as you have a blue hour stack of your foreground, you're good to go. Like I said, don't worry about the foreground. Get your shot. You know, you've got it for later and just underexpose the heck out of the sky in order to preserve the color, blend it all together, and you've got a nice clear image that has very good color. This is a panorama I did of the Milky Way over the racetrack playa. This is another image I just took. I was playing around and I actually took this at night. This was when it rained and then I had to come back. So I didn't have my foreground image. So I took a close-up shot of this and I kind of liked how the Milky Way looked all out of focus there. This is another blend I did at the Salt Flats. So this foreground was actually taken at blue hour before sunrise. And then of course, this is a stack of the Milky Way during blue hour closer to sunrise. And then I blended it all together. So this is a focus stack of 5 different images in my foreground. And then this is, I think, 15 to 20 of the sky. And then of course, it's all blended together. And again, it's very hard to shoot your foreground at night at 2.8. You have very little depth of field and it just never works. So definitely keep that in mind when you're doing this to make sure that you do that. Another image. This is again when I had to leave. It rained and I came back. And last year I didn't get as clear of a Milky Way because there was a lot of moisture in the sky. This was the Milky Way over the Jeep that I had rented. This is a friend of mine. He's doing the cliche shot of the headlamp on the Milky Way. This is one shot. They're just playing around with different shots here. The racetrack and moonlight. This is Zabriskie Point. Again, this is stacked. So, but this is not a blue hour stack. I had shot this after I had shot something else. And this is 5 minutes at I think ISO 8000 for the foreground. And then I believe this is 15 images, a 24mm stacked and then blended together as layers in Photoshop right here at the horizon. Okay, so another favorite place I love to go is Monument Valley. I absolutely love it there. I love the Navajo. I've actually have Navajo friends that I see every year that I go. This is the first year I didn't get to go out there in probably 8 years. So it kind of broke my heart that I couldn't go out there, but I definitely want to go next year. I actually befriended a Navajo woman who kind of blessed me and told me that I'm welcome on her land. And it was pretty nice to be able to go out there and visit them. And I think it's important when you go out to somewhere like Monument Valley, you have to really respect the Navajo and respect their traditions. Okay, so I'm just gonna show you some different shots that I took at Monument Valley. Um, this is actually I got the peak near Monument Valley. This was the crazy thing was that I was chasing a storm and a bolt of lightning came down very close to here. Crazy. This is probably one of my favorite images of Monument Valley. I was able to get a very good sun star behind one of these rocks here. There. Here was a crazy thing. I was traveling with someone 2 years ago, and was it 2 years ago or last year? I can't even remember. I think it was last year. And I had met a Navajo man who took us. We paid him money, and he took us on his land and just drove us everywhere. It was insane. And this is actually a restricted area. This is residential area that belongs to the Navajo, and I was able to travel on it and be able to take different shots. I thought this cloud was insane, so I really like this composition of kind of the bushes kind of leading in with this big cloud here. This is another sunrise I had at Monument Valley. This particular trip was filled with storms. I got almost no stars. It seems like whenever I go out there, either I get insane storms or I get stars. And this one, for example, the light was incredible. This doesn't even portray how amazing the sunrise was. It was awesome. Another view of Monument Valley. This was 2 years ago. I was traveling by myself and a dust storm came in and I was about to leave and I almost got caught in it. Actually, I got too close to it. I really wanted to photograph it and I had to run for shelter. But you can see all the dust coming up over the hill. The rainbow. This is another storm. It left a nice rainbow. I got another crazy sunrise at Monument Valley. This is Agatha Peak. I don't even think I'm saying that right. This one was another crazy shot that I got. I focus stacked just two images. I got close to this bush, and then I took another of the background, and then I blended them together. But I love storm chasing because you always get incredible light before and after. I chased the storm, and this storm actually dropped a bolt very close to where I was standing. I have to say that I think I have 10 lives because I've had a lot of crazy incidences when I've been shooting. This was the closest I've ever come to being struck by lightning. There was no thunder. This big pop of light just landed very close to where I was, just like that. I mean, no warning or anything. And you can see the momentous clouds up here. So that's that. I think it was probably the lightning was probably more attracted to the sign than me, thank goodness. But I don't recommend you standing out in the middle of a field without shelter in the middle of a storm. Probably not a good idea. Monument Valley in the summertime, there's always a lot of storms going on. It's always just crazy. So if you go out there in the middle of summer, especially July, be prepared to be storm chasing because there's usually loads of it. Okay, so 3 years ago, I went out there with a friend of mine and it was just storm after storm after storm. And I actually chased the storm. I drove out of it, went to the top viewing area of Monument Valley, and it was able to get tons and tons of lightning shots all over Monument Valley. It was insane. And you can see how close the bolt was. I mean, it blew up my shot. I'm going to show you a bunch of lightning images. Now, what I do to shoot storms is I typically, I track them on radar. I make sure that I drive ahead of them so that I can watch them come toward me. And then what I do is I usually set them up my camera like a time lapse, and I'll say take like a 5 or 6 second exposure. Typically, I use an ND filter if it's during the day to slow the exposure down, and then I keep taking successive shots. And I finally have a lightning trigger. My friend bought it for my birthday. I busted my D850 over the weekend. I fell at a waterfall, but I'm hoping to get it soon. Well, anyway, that's a sidetrack. But like I said, I have 10 lives, so I'm just waiting for the next thing to happen. Probably standing out and with no shelter, watching a lightning storm is probably not the safest thing to do. This is another one. The storm was at a pretty safe distance where I was. I was shooting with the telephoto. I absolutely love the way the light kind of lit up the land in front of me, and I was able to get a bolt. I love low hour shooting. I'm not really a huge fan of night shooting when I'm shooting storms. I love getting low hour shots of lightning. I absolutely love this shot. I got very, very lucky to get lightning bolts so close to this. It's another one that I got. I got another one just hitting this thing up from the top. It's another one. It actually got pretty close to where I was standing. And after I had taken the shot, I decided it was time to leave because I couldn't gauge just how close the storm was to me. I had no reception. I couldn't track it on radar anymore. So I was basically like a sitting duck out there. So after I took the shot, I decided to go back to the car. Here's a close-up of another lightning bolt that I got. Okay. So I love shooting Milky Way, but Monument Valley, actually the center of Monument Valley is a little bit light polluted because there's a town there and a hotel. They install these LED lights and it's kind of hard to get night shot. But Nikon actually picked this image when I won the Nikon 100, when I got accepted into that. This is one of the images that I picked for that. And I actually got if you can see a lightning bolt coming out of this cloud from the bottom, and then the Milky Way at the top. I'm just going to run through some Milky Way images from Monument Valley. And I took this a while ago. I think my photography has improved over the years. I think my focusing is better as well. I mean, this was taken, I think, 5 years ago. Even though I didn't shoot this image correctly, I still love the way the Milky Way is lined up with this. I have gone back 4 times since I took the shot, and I've never been able to line it up like this. It's always if the weather is bad or it's too late in the season, the core is already behind the peak. Okay, so I'm going to talk about the Valley of the Gods now. This is probably one of my favorite places out west to go. It is also the creepiest place I've ever been in my life. The Navajo actually believe that this place is haunted. They believe that a long time ago, there was another tribe out there that got killed and their spirits are there. So I'm not superstitious, but the Navajo believe that this place is haunted, and there's a long story behind that, but we're not going to go into that now because I'm showing you my photography. But last time I went there, I was by myself. So I actually had a guide, to take a guide to take me into the park because I didn't want to go by myself. But the Valley of the Gods is actually an extremely dark place. If you want to shoot Milky Way, it is insanely dark in there. I mean, there is only a dirt road to go in and out. Okay, so I don't have a lot of images from here, but I really love this one because I love the way I was able to place this bush right in the front to create some kind of foreground element here. This is 2 shots, one for here and one for here. I also took a longer exposure of the bush and then a shorter exposure of the sky, and then I blended it together in Photoshop. And this is another one. And I was actually scouting for Milky Way when I took this. I used photo pills to kind of plot the shot over the peak, so I kind of knew where to stand. Okay, so this is a very interesting story. I had a Navajo guide. This was taken last year, And I was getting ready to shoot Milky Way when he got extremely scared and said we had to leave immediately. And this was actually when the Navajo guy turned the light on in the car and asked us to go immediately. He was so spooked he wouldn't stay there anymore. So I have no idea what spooked him, but we had to leave, and this is the only shot that I got of that night. I actually went back another time, and I was able to get a cloudy Milky Way over this thing. This was my probably third attempt to go here. This was a blue hour shot I took of the flowers, and then I waited for night, and then this is a stack, and then I got the meteor there. This is actually some star trails over one of these guys. I have to say it is kind of creepy being out there. This is an interesting story. Actually, Nikon picked this for their Nikon 100. I call this Donald Trump rock. I'm sorry if I've offended anybody out there, but it kind of looked like Donald Trump to me. That's why I wanted to shoot it. But an interesting story about this. I had scouted in Valley of the Gods the day before, and I had actually gotten all my plots and photo pools, saved all of my coordinates. Now, what I do is when I plot in a dark place like that, what I do is I travel around during the day and I actually save my coordinates so that when I'm going there in the dark, I know exactly where to go. What happened was that when I went there the following day, there was a storm that actually went through earlier. The place was completely flooded. And I actually went on the dirt road to get down to the park, and I saw all this water rushing toward my car. I was able to turn the SUV around and get out of there before I would have gotten stuck. And actually, you have to be really careful when you're shooting out west during the storm season. You don't want to be caught in a situation where you're being carried away by a flood, because these flash floods happen there all the time. Valley of the Gods is a deep valley, and when it rains, all the rain kind of congregates inside the valley, and it takes a long time to get out. So when I was driving around after, when I had kind of given up on the Milky Way shoot for that particular trip, I found this Donald Trump rock and I decided to shoot it. This is again, this is the top of the park. This is the edge of the park here when I had to leave, and I was able to get the Milky Way and a meteor. This is the Mookie Dugway. This is probably one of the craziest place I've ever traveled in the dark. This thing has a very tight elevation gain. It's a dirt road and there's no guardrail, and it's a very, 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 very deep drop all the way down to the valley below. I probably will never travel this thing at night again. It was the scariest experience, I think, of my life, but I did it. I wanted to challenge myself, and I went up there in the dark. But if you want to go to the Mookie Dugway, I recommend you going in the day. Okay, so White Pocket is probably one of my favorite places. I love it there. The only problem is that White Pocket is a very remote place, and you need a 4x4 Jeep in order to get up there. I had hired a company to take me there and leave me there to camp, and then they picked me up. So next time I go there, I'm hoping to go there next year. I'm also hoping to partner with Viking and International Tours on a workshop there. And well, yeah, I'm hoping to go back. So this is an amazing place. It's probably one of the most spectacular places I've ever been to. It's like an alien landscape up there. So it turns out I got up to White Pocket, no shelter, and a storm came in. So there I was in White Pocket, literally in the middle of nowhere with no shelter, and it's dropping bolts like crazy. You can see I got a supercell over the park. So you can see this rotating supercell, and it, like I said, it was just dropping bolts like crazy. This is another view of the supercell over White Pocket. I absolutely love this image. I love clouds. I love storms. And I was able to get this massive supercell cloud just dropping a ton of rain. I ran out of this park. I'm actually at the edge of it here. I ran out of it. It started to drop bolts. I didn't want to get struck. I was the only thing out there. I had my tripod. So I just ran out of there, and I waited kind of away from it as much as I could and waited for it to pass. So what happened was that after the storm came through, it actually left a lot of puddles, and I was able to get the coveted puddle shots of there. So it was pretty exciting, and I heard that it hadn't rained there in probably about 2 months. So I really went on the right day. These are dinosaur tracks, white pocket. Another view of that supercell cloud dropping rain right where I was shooting. Another coveted puddle image at White Pocket. So I went to White Pocket to shoot the Milky Way, and this is actually not the shot that I had planned. I had actually gotten another shot somewhere else that I didn't like as much. This is not a blue or a blend at all. You could see that the foreground is blurry. In hindsight, I would have just gotten this to begin with. I had met somebody there, I was there by myself, and he agreed to be my subject, and he stood at the edge of this with the Milky Way. So it was a lot of fun. This is actually one shot. I got these tea lights from Walmart, and they were fantastic to light up a scene very, very naturally and very, very lightly. And this is actually with tea lights, but it's lit with tea lights, if you can believe that. This is a blue hour blend of the foreground and then the Milky Way. I love this shot. This is a blend of several different images. This mountain here in reflection actually was taken during blue hour, during sunset. And I waited for the Milky Way to come in, and I blended in the Milky Way and the reflection later. So it was kind of a difficult thing to process. You can't, it's very hard to take an image like this at night because there's no light. So even when you take a long exposure, it's almost impossible to take this at night. And it was so big that I don't even think all of my tea lights would have lit it up enough. So I was very happy to at least have gotten this shot of this is actually one of the images that I wanted the most when I went to White Pocket was this mountain here. And this is another trip that I took. I wasn't planning on shooting the Milky Way, but I left my tent and got the shot. Okay, so another place I love is White Sands. I was just passing through. I was only there for an hour, but I definitely want to go back there, and I would love to figure out if I can shoot there at night. It's absolutely, White Sands National Monument is spectacular. I think they just made it a national park. So I think there's going to be more facilities there and more opportunities to shoot at night now that it's a national park. There's a lot of flowers in the sand, and it makes really beautiful compositions. This is another, what's really amazing is that the plants kind of stick up out of the white sand and create a lot of stark contrast. And also, again, these storms are chasing me. This is another storm that came in. So I didn't have a lot of time to shoot because the bad weather came in and I had to leave, but I was able to get stark contrast here with the white sand. And then another plant there. Okay, so I'm going to be running through some miscellaneous images throughout Arizona, Utah, and New Mexico. Okay, so crazy story. So every time I try to go into the Valley of the Gods, something happens. This is another example. This is last summer, I drove into Valley of the Gods. I saw a storm coming and I knew I had to get the hell out of there immediately. You do not want to be caught out there in the middle of a storm because, again, that place floods like crazy and you'll be stuck out there for days. And it's all dirt roads. It's thick clay, and you will literally not be able to get your car out, and there's no reception. So you don't want to be caught out there. So what happened was that I turned around and drove as fast as I could to get out of the park. And as I had just left the park, traveling toward Mexican Hat, a dust storm came in and was literally engulfing the car with tons of sand. And I was able to roll down the window and get some shots. And the sandstorm actually got lit by the sun, and it created this crazy sunset sandstorm picture. So it's insane. Sorry, this is so noisy, but I was shooting storms at night in the middle of nowhere, and I thought this particular structure was so amazing. I have a Navajo friend out there who invited me onto her reservation, and she made me dinner. And right outside of her house on the reservation, a bunch of storms came in, and I was able to shoot a bunch of storms right outside of her house. So I was actually standing in the middle of the field when I was doing this. The storms were kind of far away, but I did get caught in a very nasty storm on my way back from visiting my friend. It was kind of crazy. So if you can see here, I mean, what happened was that there was like 4 or 5 storms all around me that kind of converged into this one big superstorm, and it was dropping lightning bolts like mad. I got caught in southern Arizona near the Mexico border. A very, very severe storm came in and started flooding the roadways. And again, you don't want to be caught out there in one of those storms because you literally your car can get swept away in this stuff. So I actually watched the storm form in front of me and drop rain. And as soon as I felt like I couldn't get out of there, like I had to leave right then and there, because in another 5 minutes, this thing would have been right on top of me. What happened was that I kind of misjudged where the storm was going, and I actually had to drive through the storm to get out of the area. So again, you don't want to mess with storms out west. If you do go out there to storm chase, you have to be very careful about being swept away in a current, especially if you're in a place where there's only dirt roads, you can get stuck. This is another image from that crazy dust storm that they had. It was just crazy. I mean, there's no other way to put it. This is the sunset shot. This is a crazy story. I'm sorry about the noise here. I visited Ajo, Arizona, and I wanted to shoot these guys next to this mountain, but I gotta say, like, these guys are nasty. If you get one of these guys caught in your leg or your arm, you literally better have a way to remove them, or you're gonna have to go to the hospital. So it was just, I'll probably never shoot this again at night because it's hard to see them. This is like standing in a minefield. So sunset. Okay, so I love swallows, and my best friend lives out there, and I took a drive on the 60 in Arizona, and I found my favorite swallow. I actually knew where he was because I saved his coordinate, and I waited for the trucks to come by, and I got some car trails. But it looks like he's flipping the bird. I mean, I don't know. It's kind of looks like he's doing a dance or something like that. This is near the Mexican border. This is in New Mexico, Capitol Reef. I had traveled to Roswell just to get the Milky Way over a ranch near there. I know that sounds crazy, but they claim to have had a UFO there a while ago. So I had to get the cliche shot of the stars over a ranch in Roswell. So I did it. I drove all the way to Mexico just to get a shot like this. This is from the side of the road in New Mexico. New Mexico is very dark. This is near the Hogsback Highway in Utah, a very, very crazy road to drive in the dark. There's no guardrails. It follows over mountain passes, so it's just nuts. This is in Narchos National Park. And this is light painted with a very soft light. This is only one shot. When I'm driving through Arizona at night, I like to just take car trails with the Milky Way. This was taken a while ago, and I think my focusing has gotten a lot better, but I like the picture anyway. Sorry, this is a lot of focus, but the reason why this is out of focus was because I got too close to a truck and it shook my camera, but I like the light trail anyway. One of my favorite places to go is called the Top of the World in Arizona. It's on the 60 in Arizona. A spectacular roadway, and it's visited very little by tourists. So if you're looking for a cool place to go out west, I recommend traveling the 60 to the Top of the World in Globe. Fantastic. I was there alone at night getting truck trails through this place. So I love car trails. And I was traveling near Globe, and again, clouds came in. I didn't get the star shot I wanted, but I fooled around with some car trails. Okay, and that's about it. And here's some of my upcoming workshops. I have a Death Valley workshop planned December 7th to 13th with Viking International Tours. This is the first time that I'm joining them as a workshop leader. So we have a couple of openings. So if you're interested in traveling somewhere, you can contact me, and this is the link to sign up. And I'm going to Kawalin. Kawalin actually just presented a seminar for you guys at 1 o'clock today. And he's a partner of mine, and we do a lot of workshops together. He also lives in New Jersey. And also I have a bunch of moon workshops coming up. I'm shooting a huge moonrise over One World Trade Center from New Jersey on Halloween. So if you guys want to join, I'm only taking 5 people for that one. And then me and Kawalin are doing a sunset and moonrise workshop from Liberty State Park on November 1st. So that's about it for me. I wanted to keep it to 45 minutes. I'm going to open this up to any questions. So thank you so much.
Wow, Jennifer, really amazing pictures. Those were really cool. We have a couple of questions. Somebody's asking.
Thank you.
Yeah, somebody's
Can you hear
asking.
me?
Yes, hello?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Awesome, okay. So somebody's asking, in post-processing, how do you get such beautiful colors?
What I do is I underexpose my shots a lot, and I use ND filters to preserve contrast. So a lot of people might be kind of critical of that, saying, well, you're not supposed to underexpose, like what are you doing? But I tend to expose for the sky in a lot of my shots, and then I post-process my shadows later. And I find that a little bit of underexposing goes a long way, along with filters, to preserve color. And I also chase color, and I chase light. I tend to follow storms a lot, and the light before and after storms and before and after rain, I get the best light and
Got
color.
it. And what program do you use for post-processing?
I use Lightroom and Photoshop. I don't heavily process my images. I only really stack Milky Way images and my focus stock landscapes, but I never replace the sky or do anything like that, and I never add anything that wasn't there. So I guess I'm a kind of purist in that way.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
What do you look for in a lens for shooting astrophotography?
I think it has to have an astro coating. So I've used the 14 to 24 for the past couple of years, and it's pretty good. I highly recommend also the Rokinon lenses. The Rokinon makes an astro lens, a couple of them that are coated for astro, and they're only a couple $100. Like the Rokinon 14 millimeter astro lens is phenomenal lens. I mean, I think you can buy it from B&H, I think, for like $260, and it's fantastic. You don't need to spend, $2,000 on a lens to shoot astro. You don't need to. I mean, there was quite a few images that I showed that were taken with the Rokinon lens.
Okay, and staying on lenses, somebody's asking if somebody was to take a moonrise workshop, what lens would be required?
I think the at least 300 millimeter. So we shoot like it typically, especially for my epic moonrise Halloween shoot, we're shooting from a very far away distance. So you definitely have to have a lens of at least 300 millimeter for sure. And I always have stuff to loan out. Like if somebody wants to come to one of my workshops, doesn't have a lens, I always have spare stuff lying around.
Oh, very cool.
Yeah.
Now, somebody else is commenting, I'm not familiar with flashes and have trouble choosing them or using them. What kind of flashes would be capable of taking photos at night? I want to light up the whole scene.
I don't use flashes at night. If you want to light up the scene, I recommend using low-level lighting, very, very soft lights. Hide them in the bush and the grass around where you're shooting and light it up that way. You don't want to, I don't use flash at all. I use low-level lighting if I need to light up a scene. And if anybody wants to email me, I can actually send them a link to the tea lights that I brought to White Pocket last year that work phenomenally. And they're little lights that I got at Walmart, and they're actually meant to light up a hallway. Like say if someone has to go to the bathroom at night, they're actually not meant for night photography, but They were just fantastic. You could not even tell that I was using them.
Hey, whatever works, right?
Yeah, hey, I mean, whatever works is right.
Lee is asking, why do you stack the Milky Way shots? Do you need it for focus?
I stack the Milky Way shots so that I can, one, eliminate noise, and two, I actually stack them to get more detail in the Milky Way. And I actually just got a tracker. So I'm actually going to be using the tracker next year during Milky Way season. But if you don't have a tracker, then you definitely want to stack them. I've actually stacked 40 Milky Way shots together. And you definitely got a lot of more detail, and you actually eliminate noise when you stack. It's not for focusing, it's for detail and noise.
Oh, very cool. Okay.
Yeah. Mhm.
And Sydney wants to know, how do you choose how many pictures to take for focus stacking, and what parameters do you consider?
It really depends on the scene. It also depends on how close I want to get to my subject. Um, I was shooting in Norway earlier this year, and there was a pattern in the sand that I really liked, and I got super close to it. If you're getting super close to an image, you definitely want to take more, because you definitely want to have more focus points, because the closer you are to an image, right? I think the more images that you want to take, meaning that you want to focus very close, as close as you can for what your camera lens allows. You want to be able to focus near and then keep taking successive shots. Now, I've stacked anywhere from 2 to even 8 of them. It really depends on the scene. And also what I do is I like to also take longer, probably brighten the foreground more than my sky. I'm always underexposing my sky. So what you can do is, when your last image of your sky, you can take a quicker exposure in order to preserve the sky color, and then longer exposures of your foreground.
Now, PJ comments, could you not use hyperfocal distance instead of stacking for your blue hour shots?
I mean, you can, but I like to get close to the image. So I tend to have a better result stacking. You could use hyperfocal distance. I've never done that. I've always stacked, but I'm sure it works. And actually, PhotoPills has built into PhotoPills, actually, there's a calculator that you can actually calculate how far you have to be from an object to get that. So for whoever just asked that question, you can actually go into PhotoPills and actually calculate it built into that. I know Raphael had spent a lot of time building that in. So I think it's a fantastic feature.
Now, Matt asks,
Yeah.
if you could only bring one lens to a landscape star shoot, what would you bring?
My 14 to 24, hands down. And with my filters, it's just phenomenal. I mean, I use it for everything. I was shooting the Hawks Nest Highway this morning in fog, and that was like one of the only times I couldn't use it, because I needed to take a long lens to that. But in almost all of my landscapes and stars, I use the same lens, my 14 to 24.
Okay. And Bobby asks, do you manually focus stack? I believe that the Nikon 850 has built-in focus stacking capability, but I shoot with a 7 Mark III.
I don't, I do all my focus stacking manually. I don't use the built-in feature of the D850. Now, my D850 got busted over the weekend from falling in waterfall, but can make the stuff up. But I think the Z7 has a similar capability. But I mean, I'm using my Z7 now, but my D850 is busted. But I think again, I only manually do it. I don't use any in-camera functions like that.
And follow up to the lens question, how fast is that 14 to 24? Is it 2.8?
It's 2.8, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so that 14 and 24 is actually one of the reasons why I converted to Nikon in the first place from Canon, and also for the dynamic range. That's why I switched. But I really, really wanted that lens. I heard phenomenal things about it, and I've used that lens almost exclusively for all of my landscapes in Astro for the past 3 years.
Okay. And
Yeah. Hmm.
Barry is asking, when focus stacking, I understood you to say you shot the distant mountains at 24 millimeters. Doesn't that change the perspective?
It can, but it can be corrected in Photoshop. Now, the ones I showed you, I didn't shoot at 24. That's just a method. So you can bring your mountain in. What you have to do is you have to, when you're blending in the 24 millimeter, you have to make sure that you have a clean line of the blend. So basically, a clean horizon line is probably the easiest than something that's all broken up with trees. You have to be really careful when you're doing that. So you have to be aware that you have to have a clear blend line, or it's kind of difficult to blend both of them in.
All right. Well, it looks like we covered all the questions that came in.
Hmm.
Um, so that was a lot of great information. Thank you, Jennifer.
Oh,
Uh,
sure.
that was really cool. Love the images.
Thank you.
So yeah, thank you so much for joining us today. And yeah, I guess we'll wrap it up. Um, so thank you to all of our viewers, and we'll see you next time here at the B&H Virtual Event Space.
Thank you. Thank you so much. It was an honor to talk again with you guys. And next week I'll be discussing my moon images that are my favorite, of course. And again, here are my upcoming workshops. We're trying to fill this Death Valley trip. I'm hoping for it to be epic. So if you guys contact me if you're interested. We have like 5 openings.
All right,
Thank you
sounds
so
good.
much.
Looking forward to it, and everybody have a great night.